What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ryan Ripken Show. I am not Ryan Ripken, and that's not Brad Smith.
Yeah, a little different today. A little different, you know?
It's always great when Rip's not here because then we make it way more fun.
Yeah, we can just kind of do our own thing. We're just having vibes, having fun over here. It's like the principal's gone from school.
You know what is bullshit though? Bro, it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
The foodie Wednesdays lasted an entire week. And the one time that Rip's not here, it's just like, oh, okay, well, fuck the rest of us.
I know. We couldn't get some food. We couldn't get some more food.
I want cotton candy, French fries, whatever the hell.
Yeah, seriously. Last week we had all this food for opening day and everything, and then this week it's just us.
Yeah. Thanks, Kyle. Here. Thanks for that, bro. Appreciate you. No, shout out though to Iron Rooster. They're always supportive of us. But still, like, what gives?
Yeah, Ryan's gonna have to answer. Ryan's gonna have to answer for the no food.
I do think that this is Rip's fault. I'm not gonna blame Kyle for this.
Oh, this is 1,000%.
100%. Yeah.
If Kyle got the text, he would be here in a heartbeat. We know it.
I should have texted him. Honestly, I should have been like, bro, just at least bring me some. I need some shrimp and grits, maybe.
Yeah, just something.
Or the what is it? The waffle churros.
Oh, waffle churros. They're unbelievable. They get me every single time. I'm like, it's like one of the foods where I'm like, okay, they'll be in the studio. I'm like, okay, I'll grab one.
Yeah.
And then like 2 minutes later, I'm like 3 in and I'm like, this is
you dip them in the syrup.
Oh, it's over.
Forget about
it's absolutely over.
Forget about it. What's up, bro? How's life with you?
You know, it's been good. The Orioles are back. I'm over though this Baltimore weather of 2 days ago. It was 80 degrees, sunny, and you're like, wow. Like I was outside opening day sweating. Yeah. I was trying to find air conditioning. And then I wake up the next morning yesterday and today, and it's like, oh, by the way, it's 40 degrees.
Yeah, welcome to spring.
Yeah, you know, it's that second winter.
Tomorrow is 76.
Yep, because Baltimore.
Yeah.
Because Baltimore. Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason or anything for it. They're just like, it's that second winter, which is somehow worse than the first winter because they've given you a taste of here's 2 straight 70, 80 and sunny days. And you're like, we made it. Baseball season's here. Weather's beautiful. And they're like, oh, Orioles off day plus it's 40 degrees. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Snow days still plausible right now.
Yeah, which is crazy. But
as an avid Jeep owner, it's the most frustrating time of the year because like I'm itching, and you and I drove with the doors off down in Florida. It was absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. So I'm like itching to do that, take the top off, but it only lasts for a day.
Yeah, then you'd have to put it on that night because it's like, oh, by the way, tomorrow it's going to be it's just
30 degrees. Yeah, it's bullshit. Welcome to Maryland.
Exactly.
We got a lot going on as far as the shows today is concerned, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Also, the channel's about to hit a milestone.
Yeah.
We're about 7 subscribers away from 15,000 on YouTube. We just crossed over 10,000 on Instagram. We're approaching 15,000 on X. So we growing, people.
Yeah,
we are growing. It's been absolutely fantastic. If you haven't subscribed already, what the hell's wrong with you? Please do so. We're trying to get over 15,000 a day. Feel like it should happen.
Yeah, if you are in the chat right now and you are not subscribed, you can be one of the 7 that gets us to 15. So there's a little incentive for you. We'll see. We'll see if we can do that.
Oh, there we go. So look, a couple things on the docket. Some pretty major signings across MLB.
Yeah,
it's been interesting, and I actually have started to wonder. You know, for a long time, we thought that the lifer at an MLB team, like we think about Calvin here in Baltimore, about just being a lifer of the organization. We just talked to Jim Palmer, also a lifer of the organization. For a while there, it felt like it was dead. And now organizations are starting to move towards these long-term deals to make more lifers out of their organization. I think that that's going to be very interesting. We'll talk about the Jackson Merrill signing and a couple others, and maybe hear some insights from a one GM we also interviewed here recently on some insights regarding that too. So a couple other things. The torpedo bat buzz is still a thing.
Yeah.
And AL East has also, I mean, the Yankees hitting 15 homers so far this year, and we're 6 games in. It's just absolutely
they are everyone, you know, myself included. We made fun of them, or we're like, "Yep, yeah, it's Aaron Judge and friends." I don't know if every one of them took it personally. Don't know why.
Aaron Judge took it personally. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment. But this show has been brought to you by Merit Athletic Club. You guys
Woo!
can't think that brand new sponsor, by the way.
Yeah.
Super pumped to have them. There's a lot more going on. We'll talk about them in a little bit as well, but wanted to give them an early shout out as they are a new sponsor of ours. What do you want to dive into first, Zach? Do you want to dive into who's behind the camera?
Yeah, I think
we behind the scene.
Yeah,
who's
we got someone lurking in the background, lurking in the walls like he always is.
Couldn't make his way out here, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Kevin Ostreicher. How's it going, Kevin?
Oh, what's going on, guys? Exciting day. Yeah, I'm trying to get the live subscriber count up on my computer so I can watch. Hopefully.
Yeah, I got it. Don't worry, Kevin.
Okay. You got it up.
Oh, wrong.
What? Oh, okay. There we go.
Still 7 away, guys. So if we want to, if someone in this
We're
chat,
still 7 away. What is wrong?
If someone in this chat is, lurking without
steal grandma's phone and subscribe.
Somebody we can hit 15K here. Let's see what we're doing, people. Let's see what we're doing. Man. Speaking of Kevin, when we'll get into this in a little bit, Brad and I were talking about beforehand. NFL draft is 3 weeks from tomorrow, and that does not feel real. It does not.
Yeah, it's snuck up on us pretty quickly. Honestly, I
did this last year too. I felt like last year. I'm more involved in the draft this year than I was last year. I think we can all admit last year it was tough to talk or think about football for a few months after that Kansas City game. Losing divisional round up, just kind of that was whatever. I was sad for a few days, but I'm back on my draft grind, so I'm excited for that. I feel like there's just so much happening between baseball being back, NFL draft always sneaks up on us.
Yes,
just so much to talk about.
Still no sightings.
Yeah, it's still yet to get that Nick Moore sighting in studio,
which is draft day highlight.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have him.
He hung out here for 6 hours.
Yeah, and then probably 2 extra if you count the afterwards T&Q talking about just fitness and everything. And I think that was another hour after the cameras turned off of Q and Nick talking fitness.
Yeah.
Which, we'll tie right into our Merit sponsorship of the show.
Ooh.
Appreciate that. Deep Eddie also. Shout Deep Eddie on opening day of Pickles. What was Deep Eddie like over there at Pickles?
Unbelievable. They were just handing out crushes at one point. I literally walked over and somebody handed me an orange crush and was like, take this for the video. And I was like, okay, what video? And they were like, look towards the camera. I just cheers with a bunch of random people. And then they were like, thanks, you can keep that. And I was like, this is cool. I was like, good. Okay. This is fun. So it's man, Pickles, Deep Eddie at opening day was a blast. Just one of the more fun days of the year every single time.
Yeah. I don't go anymore. And the only reason I don't is that I'm not a big crowd person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because I'm getting older.
Yeah.
Just hate that shit.
I showed up 3 hours before first pitch. I waited in line at Pickles for about 20 minutes.
There's people camping out the night before.
Yeah. There are people, I know people who get there. It's like a tradition to get there like 6 a.m., which more power to you. If you are outside Pickles at 6 a.m. for a 3:05, or I guess I got moved up to 2:35, but for a 2:35 first pitch, more power to you.
Yeah.
I very much enjoy opening day. I will not be joining that crowd, but I appreciate seeing you guys 4 hours later. That you guys warm it up, hold down fort.
Yeah.
And then I'll meet you the next time.
Yeah. Too old for that shit. I want to get into the Jackson Merrill conversation, but we are so close to hitting 15,000 that I feel like I'm just going to get interrupted as soon as I start. We're at 14,996.
4 away. I'm
Let's go.
So are you going to let me get this story in, or are we going to have to wait? What say you, fellas?
I think we try to get the story in.
Yeah, I think we go for it.
Let's try our best.
Let's do it. So today, Jackson Merrill signed a 9-year, $135 million deal with the Padres. Fellas, this is actually pretty insane. Jackson Merrill's 21 years old. He's actually a Baltimore native, went to Severn High School.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's pretty well known around here for us local folks. But this is a huge deal for him. He's already hitting 400 so far this season. I know that it's still early, but he is just absolutely crushing it. $15 million a year for a guy with one season under his belt is a pretty big risk for organization. But the Padres are no strangers to this. I mean, we got Xander Bogaerts, I think, till 2023.
Yeah.
It's who else? Remind me.
Manny, and then
Manny's still
Fernando Tatis was also, I believe,
2034.
Yeah, so he's
and this deal puts Jackson Merrill till 2033 now too, I think.
Yeah, till 34 with an option in 35.
Okay.
He'll be 32 after that club option. So at the latest he hits free agency will be 2036, his year 30 or his 33 age year. He still can get a big contract after that. You know, the way that players are getting, if he's still a star at 33 years old, he can get a second contract for over 100 million. So this is, you know, Brad, we talked about this beforehand and now on the show a few times. It does kind of feel like Major League Baseball is moving towards this. Hey, if they hit the open market, you know, for so long it was, hey, they're going to the Yankees, they're going to the Dodgers. If they hit the open market, hey, they're going to go to this big time club, you know, whoever the big market is.
Yeah.
So I think clubs right now are going, hey, we'll give you the contract 4 years ahead of time, 5 years ahead of time. I mean, Merrill still had 1 year left of pre-arbitration and then 3 years of arbitration, got all those bought out, 15 mil a year down the line. And now, I mean, 135 million at what we said, 23 years old. So
yeah,
it's pretty good.
Silver Slugger rookie last year. And I got to say, this is probably a better deal for the Padres than maybe it is for Jackson Merrill. And obviously it'll depend on how he performs over these 9 years or what have you. But there's another signing too, which, and these stories I think are twofold. We're talking about the long-term deals and organizations want to keep lifers. And we're going to reference back to Mark Shapiro in a minute, because I think it's very important after we just talked to him and that some of these deals are coming through.
Yeah.
But Christian Campbell, second baseman for the Red Sox, also signed a really long deal, 8 years, $60 million, options that could push it to $100 million over 10 years. But to me, this is another thing where I feel like this is a really good team-friendly deal, but also kind of risky for these young players. I mean, Campbell is 22, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Jackson Merrill's 21. These guys are really young. You almost got to wonder, and obviously their agents have to do their job too, and I'm sure they did. But we look at the Jackson Holidays of the world, Adley Rutschman, some of the big-time players, and Gunnar Henderson, and what their agents are doing, basically betting on them in the future or making them bet on themselves and having it be more of a performance-based type of contract later on once their arbitration runs out. It's just it's an interesting conversation because I see this working out really well for the Padres and the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And then also maybe not so much for the players, but who knows? The players get injured. Maybe they don't perform like they thought they would. And then it ends up being a better deal for these young guys. I just don't know which side of the fence I'm on just yet.
Yeah, for me, Kevin, and then we'll get to you. For Jackson Merrill, for him to get 15 mil a year over 9 years, I like that for him. I think that's a good contract. Just kind of, I think long term, like you said, it's going to benefit the Padres if Jackson Merrill becomes what they believe he will. So they're taking the risk of, hey, nothing's gonna go wrong. You know, everything, no injuries, any of that. You know, you're going to play like we expect you to throughout. You know, so I think that, you know, we talked about risk, and we're going to get to that with Shapiro in a minute. But I think one of the more important parts of this, you know, both these contracts, is the kind of that I feel like they got a deal because of the risk. You know, 15 million a year, if Jackson Merrill plays out the way that he could potentially, if in 2031 you're paying 15 million for a 28-year-old Jackson Merrill in the middle of his prime, it's a hell of a deal. Now we go over to Christian Campbell, 8 years, 60 million. We talked about this before the show. This one's a little bit of a head scratcher for me for Campbell. He is the number 6 prospect in all baseball. Personally, I felt like he gets 2 years of his, you know, he gets all of arbitration bought out. He gets 2 years after arbitration, but then there's 2 club options after that. At 28 years old, he is getting a $9.2 million, you know, payroll. Like that's what he's getting. So if Christian Campbell plays the way that the Red Sox think he can play, and the number 6 prospect turns out to be, this is a hell of a steal for the Red Sox. So
yeah, and if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, Zach,
Mhm.
you start thinking, okay, there's a lot of rumors about the lockout that could be happening in 26 about, rule changes and market caps and that sort of thing. It almost makes you wonder if a lot of these teams with the Padres and Red Sox most recently today, if they're thinking about that already.
Yeah.
Because then they can make the adjustments as needed.
No, I agree. I think it's part of the chess game that it all
Correct.
is, and we knew this was going to happen. We did. But gotta appreciate everyone. We have officially
let's go
15,000, baby.
15,000.
There we go.
Hey.
Appreciate it.
You guys are the best. Yeah, we're well over 15,000 now at a ripe old 15,001.
Woo! Never going back, baby. Never going back.
No, in all seriousness, Rip's not here for it because, of course, he's not. He's traveling, but it's all good. Yeah. I will speak on his behalf because I can. It has been awesome. We've been at this for about 18 months, and last year on YouTube alone, we had 5 million views on YouTube, which is absolutely insane. Our first year, 5 million views. Mm-hmm. And this baseball season is already jam-packed with content that we know that you guys are going to love. We weren't able to do any of that and reinvest into the studio and do all the fun things that we've done to bring great content to you without your support. So continue to subscribe, continue to be channel members. I see you, Brooks, and you're not getting any nip slips.
Yeah, I was going to say real fast, we got Brooks rejoining. We got British Raven, Cade by
Just enjoy the hair.
Coming soon to a ballpark near you. And then we got the 9 months, and then Tom with the 20 gifted. Oh my gosh, Tom.
Let's go.
This is Tom. You every Kevin, you've got it. This is
I don't know what it is.
Kevin, I don't know either.
Don't make excuses, Kevin.
Kevin, just stand up. Stand up, even if you got to go below the mic. Come on. This is for Tom.
There you go.
There we go.
Can do it,
there we go. Tom, appreciate you more than you know. Gosh,
there you go.
What a time. We knew we weren't going to be able to make it through.
Yeah, that was awesome. And no, in all seriousness, we can't thank you guys enough. What we've been able to do up to this point has been nothing short of incredible. I mean, from going to winter meetings to going to New Orleans for the Super Bowl, all of that has been made possible because of you guys being able to watch, enjoy, and us making idiots of ourselves.
Yeah, and then right away, Steve with another 5. Appreciate you. This community is absolutely unbelievable. Seriously, I know Brad just said everything that we do is, it's because of people like you. It makes this so much more fun, and it is possible because of you guys, whether it's gifting memberships or just simply tuning in. Yep. It's all because of you guys.
Yep.
So, man, I guess to get a little
gave you
bit
a belly button. If you missed it, it's on you.
Yeah, sorry, Brooks. But getting a little bit back into the contract, Kevin, before we get into what kind of we talked about with Shapiro, overall, what just, these guys signing early, it's really just baseball, obviously, because in football and stuff like that, you have certain years that you have to let pass before you can even start contract extensions. So it is a risk for teams. We've seen that, but it is also a risk for players. I just talked about Christian Campbell. I mean, he's not making a lot of money. He's making a lot of money. I mean, $80 million is a lot of money. But in hindsight, when you get everything, look at compared to the rest of the scale, at 30 years old, at 29, he's only making 13.2. And that could be an absolute steal for them. So, Ken, what are your thoughts on it all?
I mean, I think it's great business for the teams because you're right, Zach. It does involve a little bit of risk where, if you invest in these young guys and they end up just plateauing or their production falls off, you're on the hook for that money. But if you do reach that, or if they reach that star potential, all of a sudden, for the next 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever that contract is, you have a steal. So, I mean, I like this approach from teams because the risk, I think there's a lot of it, but I think the reward outweighs it, in my opinion, where it can be difficult with the longer term contracts to see a light at the end of the tunnel because not every one of these is going to work out. Like if you had told me, like if you want to bring it to like a Baltimore perspective, like Jackson Holiday, for example, the Orioles signed Jackson Holiday to an 8-year, $60 million contract. I'd be partying on the roof. I'd be throwing like these deals for these prospects that show potential, that have a long career ahead of them. Hopefully, I think the risk is more than worth it because for the players, you know, a young guy, that's a lot of money. Now, obviously, they could be making hundreds of millions of dollars if they decide to bet on themselves, but I don't blame players for taking stability at a young age because there is no guarantee for these guys where you could be on a career trajectory of MLB All-Star or Hall of Fame or whatever you want to call it, and then maybe an injury derails your career. And then all of a sudden, no team wants you, no team wants to pay you, and all of a sudden that $100 million contract you're looking at or $200 million contract you're looking at, all of a sudden is like, well, we're not going to take the risk on you. So it gives stability. Plus, because these guys are so young, it does give them the opportunity to hit free agency again. And assuming, let's just say Jackson Merrill becomes the star, he'll be able to hit free agency, late 20s, early 30s, and probably get a huge payday that maybe he could have gotten in his mid-20s, but he has a stability, and it's less risk for the players, more risk for the teams, but as the teams take on more risk, obviously they get the better deal.
Yeah, and I think, we did an interview with Mark Shapiro, president and CEO of the Toronto Blue Jays. He kind of spoke about this, and more specifically to Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s contract and what that can mean for the team, what it can mean for him as far as his legacy is concerned, but then also just weighing out the risk and that sort of thing. So do we have that clip, Zach, that you can pull up?
Yeah.
Let's take a listen.
With every young player. Multi-year contracts for young players before they reach free agency are about sharing risk. And what you're trying to do is look at the sweet spot between where the team is comfortable accepting the risk of injury, dips in performance, long-term projections of what happens as they age, where the player has to be comfortable as giving up the unknowns of what they could potentially make in the marketplace. And they have to place a premium usually on being in that one spot. And you're searching, and the negotiation is all about searching for the sweet spot. That's the fact. It's like, where do we get to that overlap of we're both comfortable sharing risk at this level, understanding each other's risk, and how can we structure a deal which makes us both feel good in the end. However, it does take both sides being a little uncomfortable, us being uncomfortable with length of deal and kind of uncertainty over a long period of time, and the player being uncomfortable knowing that maybe they could have made more money, maybe not, but maybe they could have made more money if they went to free agency. So usually there has to be a premium and a desire on what it means to that player to be a legacy player, to stay in that market, to be a part of that, and really become a part of that community.
Yeah, I think it's a great point you make, because I do think people sometimes forget that. It's not that you don't have a desire or the player doesn't have a desire, but how much are you willing to risk on?
Yeah, and so I am trying to think about how I want to articulate this, because there is like a certain risk that players are going to take. There's a risk that the team's going to take, and then you just have to figure out what makes sense to you. My thing is, it's like Juan Soto, for example, gets seriously injured. He's out for the season. That's going to cost the Mets several $100 million, or $75 million.
Yeah.
Right. So 750 over 10 years. What was his contract?
Yeah. I mean, ridiculous.
Anyway,
yeah,
it's absolutely insane. You're right. It's costing you an entire year of salary for a guy who's not playing. Shohei Ohtani has a lot of that deferred, but still the risk remains the same. Whereas on the other side of it, it's the player too, that could end up getting injured and not getting paid. So I just, or maybe overperforming their contract also is the kind of like the bigger risk too. So there is going to be happy medium. I think that at the end of the day, it just comes down to what that player is comfortable with. And we've talked about this with Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns would have had to been offered the world to not go to Arizona. So it's just it's just interesting dynamic, and then the conversation is going to continue. I just find it fascinating.
Yeah, I do too. And Kevin, you want to go?
Well, no, you go, then I'll go after you. You're good.
I was just going to say, I love the part where he talked about the sweet spot, because both both sides are going to be a little bit uncomfortable with the deal. And I'm sure, we talk about these deals. I'm sure the Red Sox are going, hey, we think we made a really good deal with Christian Campbell, but if he flails out, if he doesn't do anything, if he's not that great and he only is like a career 225 hitter, whatever it may be, then we're paying in 2032, we're paying $16 million for him still. There is that risk there. But if you're Christian Campbell right now you're saying, okay, all of a sudden in let's say by 2029, I'm 27, I'm a perennial MVP caliber, contender. I'm only getting paid $6.2 million, and it's not getting that big contract anytime soon. I'm still waiting potentially 5 years. So there is that risk by both sides of the player has to be comfortable with saying, hey, no matter what I do now, this is the price I'm getting for the next 10 years, for the next 8 years, because it's not a performance based anymore. Through arbitration, it doesn't matter if you hit 40 home runs and drove in 150 the year before, or you hit 4 home runs and drove in 10. You're getting the same amount. So that risk by both sides, you talk about the length for the team and just kind of the overall pay for the players. We've seen this go both ways.
Yeah.
We've seen guys get massive contracts and suddenly it's like you look back and you're like, wow, the team messed up there. Then we've seen guys get massive contracts and you look back after 5-6 years and you're like, this is the biggest steal in baseball history. So Kevin, what are your thoughts real quick?
Yeah, I just have two quick points, one relating back to you, Zach, and then one to you, Brad. I think, first of all, Zach, what you were saying about, the length and the money and all that, you're talking about $16 million now, what's the state of the MLB going to be in 10 years? What is $16 million a year going to look like in 10 years? It's probably going to look like a cheaper contract compared to some of the other big deals in the league. So, you're talking about a deal that even if this doesn't pan out for a team and the player sinks or gets injured or it's not worth the investment, $16 million in 10 years will probably is like, it's a little blip. It hurts a little bit, but it's not going to be that massive thing. And then, Brad, back to your point about Juan Soto. I mean, I know we've talked about it a ton, but, he did turn down that deal from Washington. He had the opportunity to say, hey, what was it, $400 million or some deal like that is still a lot compared to what we're talking about. But he could have said, all right, I'm just going to take this deal. I'm already a great player. That's a lot of money. But he said, you know what? I want to see if I can get more. He turned it down. He wanted to take on more risk. And obviously it paid off for him. Now he's getting paid $75 per season. But I think that it's just a risk versus reward. Teams take on risk. Players have to risk it too. But I think that I like the approach from teams to keep doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good for the game. It's good for fans, especially to be able to build a relationship with a player that they can cling themselves to. There for a while, the Ken Griffey Juniors and Cal Ripkens of the world just didn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool to see that dynamic starting to come back, and at least teams willing to roll the dice on somebody when it comes to just being a lifer of their organization. That leads me into my next question, which do we have the link for the Merit Athletic Club?
Yes, we do.
So this question, this next conversation is brought to you by Merit Athletic Club, and you can get a free 30-day subscription, 30-day membership through Merit Athletic Club through the Ryan Ripken Show, because we did a solid for you. We negotiated that down, and we were like, hey, listen, we'll only do this for you if you guys give something.
Help the people.
People helping people. That's what Ryan likes to say all the time. So Zach's putting up a link. You guys can get a free 30 days with Merit Athletic Club. Listen, their facilities are fantastic.
They are.
Yeah.
I mean, Baltimore, one of Baltimore's largest fitness clubs, and it's that way for a reason. They go all the way out to Eldersburg. They go all the way out to Carroll County. Did you know that?
Do they actually?
Yeah. There's Carroll County.
I actually did not know that.
There is.
So anywhere.
So go to Merit Athletic Club, click the link, and if you guys are trying to get yourself in shape, get rid of that dad bod before bikini season comes. It's 2025. Don't judge. And shout out to Merit Athletic Club. But leading into this next question, and Amy, I thought brought up a good one here. So I wanted to bring out, so at least they're signing them. Hope the O's won't completely miss the boat on Adley, Gunnar, Jackson, and Westberg. And who was Juan Soto's agent?
Scott Boras.
Who is Adley, Gunnar, and Jackson's agent?
Actually, I believe it's Adley, Westberg, or no. Adley doesn't have Boris, but Westberg, Gunnar, and Jackson do.
I knew 3 of the 4.
Yep.
Then.
So 3 of the 4. Boris, I believe. Adley, I don't think he is Boris.
And so during winter meetings,
Mhm.
when Rip and I were down in Dallas, Boris had said that the organization had been very aggressive on their offers. It's just not necessarily the MO of Scott Boris, the agent himself, that pulls the trigger this early on players. So I think we're going to have to wait, but I don't think it's because the O's haven't been trying.
No, I think it. I don't think it's that at all. I think the Orioles have been trying, and I think they are going to continue to be aggressive in that because, listen, if they're not going to sign these guys from other teams, if you're not going to bring in the big fish free agent, you better lock these guys up. You know, you cannot make your window suddenly shrink from 8 to 10 years to 5 to 6. Adley, I think, is the most, let's just be honest. Adley's probably the easiest one to get done because he doesn't have Scott Boras, who wants to take everyone to free agency.
Yeah.
After that, Gunnar, Westy, and Jackson, those are going to be the tough ones. But I think in a lot of ways, those are probably the 3 that you want done the most. I love Adley. All of that, I think, his leadership and what he does for the team is incredible. But if we were talking off of, generational, like, okay, we need Gunnar's the guy, maybe Jackson, depending on how he's playing, early in his career. These guys are looking like guys that if you can get a lifer or even just 10, 15 years out of them, it's someone that can cement themselves in Orioles history. Now, Adley can cement himself as well, but I'm talking the Boris clients right now. It feels like those 3 are the guys that you're like, man, if we can get 2 done, if we can just find a way to get 2 done, it is an absolute steal.
Yeah.
Because we don't want those guys, especially Gunnar Henderson. If you give Gunnar 3-4 more years and he hits free agency, keeps playing like an MVP caliber player, he's going to get 700, 800 million on the open market.
Yeah. And Josiah, I will backtrack a little bit. Yes. No, I wasn't trying to say Ken Griffey was a lifer, but just a long-term guy.
Yeah.
Like he's played for 2 teams his whole career.
Yeah. And it feels like now these guys are hopping team to team every other year, especially some of these big names.
That's my point that I'm trying to make. Juan Soto, played for 4 teams in a span of 3 years?
Yeah.
So it's just, that's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, interesting conversation. We're going to continue to have that. But to close that out, I mean, I think the O's are going to land some of these guys, probably not all of them. And that's okay because there's so much depth. And there's so much talent coming up in the prospects within our prospects within the farm system that even if one of these guys have to be passed on or a deal can't get made or they pass on the Orioles, it's not gonna derail the organization.
Yeah, it's like we talk about with risk. I think that's the biggest thing is it's gonna be risky. It's gonna be risky no matter what. I don't care
100%.
I don't care who you think is a can't miss. We see that a lot these days. There's the can't miss prospect, the can't miss free agent. Doesn't mean that it's going to work out. Yeah. You can give them all the money in the world. And also with some of these guys like Gunnar and them, you're going to have to overpay. The analytics can say, oh, they're worth this much, and this much. Yeah, well, the New York Yankees analytics are telling them give more money till he comes. That's the thing. So you're going to have to pay over market value. You're going to have to overpay a little bit for these top guys. So just overall, I would like to see some get done. I think everyone will, but it takes 2 to tango. I know Orioles fans hate hearing that it takes 2 to tango. Oh, well, if you just offer him $500 million, he can't say no. Yeah, but are we offering everyone $500 million? Like, I get that. There's going to be deals that they can't refuse, but we've also seen Chris Davis.
I think an Adley deal gets done this season.
I would lean that way as well.
I think it does. I think it does. I really do. The Orioles have been aggressive with them. They tried last year, just didn't come to fruition. I think they're going to try again this year. We'll see what happens. Obviously, we don't know anything, but I could see that happening. Somebody asked me about SETI as well. Dog Training says, do you think the O's try to extend Mullins? I think it's a wait and see. I would love for SETI to stay an Oriole, and I think that he should stay an Oriole. The veteran presence that he brings is invaluable in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And then you add his defense on top of that, and the guy can just be a difference maker in a game at any point in time. I think Cedric Mullins should be an Oriole for life.
Mhm.
I think that he should stick around. Some people might ask, well, you have Enrique Bradley Jr. back there in the waiting for potentially that center field spot.
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't think he's ready for that yet. And I think that there's room for him on the roster at some point. The differences between him and Steady right now is that power left bat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's another thing is, are the Orioles better with Cedric Mullins in center field? Yeah. But if you're going to go after a guy like you sign a big deal with Gunnar and all of a sudden you have to move your assets around, are they going to just say, hey, it's better to have a Honeycutt, a Bradfield, a Judd Fabian come in and just play center field, move Cowser to center, whatever it may be? I agree. I think when you go just kind of pound for pound, some of the biggest impacts that they have, Cedric Mullins' defense alone has saved games.
Yeah.
And it's the plays people don't like. Yes, the diving plays, the Superman plays, the robbed home runs, those are cool. Those are awesome. Those are going to make the highlights. Some of the biggest ones are the balls in the gap that he just runs down, and it's not he made a Superman diving play. He just ran it down, and probably 95% of other center fielders, it's a double, but he makes it look easy. And he said, one of my favorite quotes from him is everyone's, when people were asking him why he doesn't dive, he was like, it hurts. I don't like diving. He was like, I'd rather just catch it.
Yeah.
He's like, so he takes off, he goes to catch it. If Cedric is diving, that means that he knows that's his only option, because that man doesn't like diving. He just wants to go catch the damn ball.
Yeah. Bradfield, I think, is going to be an incredible Oriole. I just don't know if he's just a direct plug and play SETI replacement.
No, I don't think. I think they got to see more.
He not only that, but like Bradfield, and I think trying to describe where I could see him fit. He's still obviously he's going to be in center field, but like from the offensive standpoint, he's not a big power hitter. He's going to put the ball in play, and he's obviously going to steal a lot of bases for you, which is needed. But when you're looking for that big bat, Enrique Bradfield Jr. is just not going to be that guy. I don't think. Doesn't matter where he's at in his career.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. Maybe he balks.
Maybe he
pulls the Jackson Holiday. But I just based off of what we've seen all up to this point through his college career and now in the minors, just don't see that out of him.
Yeah, his biggest thing is getting on base. If he can get on base and you can plug him into that 9 hole, if he can get walks up and he can maybe, get into that one spot, if you just really want someone who just has speed, I agree. But Kevin, where do you stand on just kind of, with SETI? We'll stick to him real fast and kind of that conversation around him.
Last year I thought it wasn't happening, but that was more so also because we also had to figure out what was going on with Tony. At the rate Tyler O'Neill is playing, you're not getting him back next year. So you can already try. Maybe you have to choose between one of those two guys. Maybe it's SETI and Tyler O'Neill. And if O'Neill opts out and goes for a bigger deal, then SETI makes sense on a 2-3 year deal. But I think it is interesting because, Brad, to your point, it's like you can't really keep everybody. That's just the way sports go. And while like you can make an effort to, and you have the Dodgers example of like, they're just getting everybody and bringing everybody in. It is a curious question to me of like, we're sitting here maybe in 3 years, in 4 years. How many of the current Orioles on the Major League roster are going to be on the team versus how many have been either replaced by prospects we're talking about, like a Basayo, like an Enrique Bradfield Jr., and how many of those guys have moved on, so that's Gunnar, Adley, Jackson, Westberg, Cowser, all these guys. The pitching, that's not really a conversation right now. There's so much offensive talent coming up and that is going to come up that, SETI's not in 10 years, Cedric's not going to be on the team, right? That's just, it's inevitable. But I think when you talk about 3, 4, 5 years down the line, hopefully you're able to bring as many of these guys back as you can. But at the same time, you don't want to get into another Norby, Stowers, Mayo, Heston situation where it's a good problem to have at the start. But if they stick around for too long in the minor leagues or they don't get enough playing time, it becomes they lose their value and you can't even trade them for much, which is why we saw the Trevor Rogers deal happen when it happened, because they just didn't have space. Zach and everybody, I don't think we were very thrilled with the return when it first happened, obviously, and we're not thrilled with it now. But you have to have big conversations about the roster because, there are only 9 spots in the lineup. and you have to find ways to get all this talent in there. And sometimes you have to make tough decisions.
I agree, and I think there are going to be a lot of tough decisions. I see Alex also bringing up, Ryan Mountcastle.
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys right now in that limbo. Ryan O'Hearn, I don't think returns next year. They took his opt in this year just simply because Ryan O'Hearn for $7 million is a steal. If you're going to be offered that, you might as well take it the way he produces. But long term, I don't. Much as I love Ryan O'Hearn, I'm not sitting here, Kevin, like you said. Same thing with Cedric going, okay, in 6 years, Ryan O'Hearn's still the first baseman. There are those things in those conversations where it's tough because, listen, what you're getting from Cedric Mullins. Like that's where we talked about risk with signing guys, these young guys long term. There's risk alone in being like, okay, we know what Cedric is. We know he can be that guy in center field. He can be a leader on the team. Do we let him go and risk that, okay, a Honeycutt or Bradfield or Fabian can't take that step and fill that, and now there's a hole on the roster?
Listen, he is the vet.
Yeah, the vet.
Self-proclaimed.
Yep, the vet. So
the oldest guy, or not longest tenured Oriole.
Yeah. And that matters.
I
think that does matter. So.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why they brought Kyle Gibson back. I truly believe that because he's a clubhouse guy. He's your 4 to 4.5 ERA guy that's just going to get there and crank out innings, and he's great for the clubhouse. We heard that from Orioles players previously when he was with the club Tour 1, that they loved him in the clubhouse, and I think that Seti brings that sort of element as well.
I agree.
All right, cool. Moving on. So it is. We've arrived at that time in the show, fellas. I did not forget about the poll.
Ooh.
And there is a poll for today. I did screw up on the options because I think there was a better option out there than a baseball one. But the question is, fellas, what sport would you say has the most athletic referees? My options were baseball, soccer, football, basketball, but you can replace baseball with hockey.
I was going to say that.
I was going to say hockey. Yeah.
Hockey refs could be replaced with baseball because baseball refs, what are they doing? Umpires are not. A lot of them are fat.
My choice is hockey. I mean, they're skating up and down the ice for the whole, and there's not a lot of stoppage time. And the thing with basketball is they're like, you get free throws and, game stoppages. In hockey, those refs are skating up and down the ice for like the majority of the game. So
65% of our audience chose soccer.
I was going to say it's got to be of the choice. I'm going to put soccer solely because have you seen? One sec, I got to look this up.
They run a marathon every game. It's unbelievable.
It's a much bigger field. Yeah.
I will say this though: there's a lot of basketball and football guys that are just absolutely jacked.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know maybe that doesn't count as like quote unquote athletic, but they are jacked.
Yeah.
I'm looking up. I'm trying to see the average distance run in a football. Yeah, because the referees in FIFA have a referee fitness test.
I believe that. That's crazy though.
Yeah, and it's kind of up there close to the. Yeah, I gotta.
You know who we should have brought on for that?
Who?
Steve DeSangro.
Oh. Yes, we should have.
Rocco's dad was a professional referee.
Yeah, I think he did Big Ten.
He did. Yeah, he did Big Ten. Some basketball as well, if I'm not mistaken. We should have asked Steve.
A soccer referee averages roughly 7.5 miles run
in a game. Holy shit!
They said, I like how it goes. Yeah, it's not just a lead. Yeah, it's not just a jog. They have to stay within, I guess, the maybe unspoken rule or what they're told. They have to be within 20 yards of the ball at all times. So if there's they have to sprint. It is a ooh.
But see, I mean, look, that's constant running, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious about football too.
I think
if there's a big play that gets ripped off, and then refs got to run all the way down the field. There's a certain level of athleticism involved in that too.
I think maybe an underrated thing would be what is it? The umpire or field judge on the who sits Kevin in the middle of the defense, because I feel like at least once a year we see every single one of those referees get absolutely laid out, and that's I don't know if we're talking in shape. That has nothing to do with in shape, but if we're going toughness, that's I would put them up there with hockey because they're just a part of the field. I mean, they get run over all the time, and people blame them, which is even funnier. They'll be just sitting there doing their job. Some linebacker just takes them out, and everyone's like, ref is always like on the ground looking like they're paralyzed after everything, and people are like, you got to get out of the way there. So,
yeah. Seeing some of the comments roll through. Football refs, are they old and slow? There's some older ones, but are they really slow?
I feel like we've gotten away from the older, slow NFL. Like, because I feel like it's one of those things where we're in the transition period. Like, because I felt like over the past probably 7 years, we went from like, there was like the lifers for NFL referees. Like everyone you saw was like, has spent 17 years in the league, 25 years in the league. And now I feel like we're getting a lot, like we have Sean Hockley, it is Ed Hockley. So Sean Hockley is just as jacked as his father. But yeah, I mean, if we're going, the Hockleys by themselves might carry the fitness for.
Well, and let me just say, I mean, we interviewed Dean Blandino. Dude's in shape.
Yeah, very much in
Dude's
shape.
in shape. And
Mike Pereira.
Mike Pereira's also, he's got a lot of gray hair.
Yeah.
That dude's in shape.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to look like Mike Pereira probably with that age.
No, I will not.
I like beer too much.
Mike Pereira, both of them were some really great guys. So talk about two just surprise interviews. They literally we were sitting down
out of the blue.
Yeah, we were talking to Torrey Smith and they came up and like, hey, you guys want to talk or something? We're like, yeah,
sure.
Come on, let's talk. I like that poll.
Yeah, thanks. Shout out. What are we talking about next? We got football coming up, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of football chatter. Anybody up for some football chatter? There's a draft coming.
Yeah.
Yep.
I said it last year or said earlier, the NFL draft the past 2 seasons, I guess maybe I shouldn't say it snuck up on us as we're talking about 3 weeks out, but if you would have asked me like a week ago when the NFL draft was, I would have told you 2 months away, which is weird because I've also been watching draft content every day, probably for the past month and a half, but I have not convinced myself that it's April yet. I still think it's like March 1st. And then it feels like we just had free agency. I don't know what it is. Kevin, am I crazy for thinking the NFL draft has snuck up on me? Or I know you obviously talk about it all the time, so it's not sneaking up on you, but do you feel like it's just quickly approaching, just faster than usual?
Yeah, no, it sneaks up on me too. I mean, and it always is. It's in the same time frame every year, but sometimes we get like the very early May draft. Sometimes it's like right at the 20s in April. So it always varies. It's not like it's a day or two or a week. It's not that big of a deal. But my perspective on when the draft sneaks up has been, I think, forever altered because of what happened with Lamar's contract situation.
That was horrible.
When they announced that, because, I was planning whenever that was going to happen, obviously for Locked On Ravens, I was like, all right, it's going to be like a big deal, big show. We'll talk about it for a really long time. It'll be a big, summer carrier. Like we'll talk about it forever. Then they do it literally 4 hours before the first round of the draft. And I'm just like, well, they just swept the biggest contract in Ravens history under the rug. And I think I talked about it for maybe like an hour. Like
Kevin,
that was it.
I will not forget that day. And just simply, I was sitting down, same thing like you, Kevin. I was preparing for the draft. I was like, okay, going to have to make some videos about, who the Ravens draft. I was getting my final mock draft out. I was like, day of, my final 3-round Ravens prediction mock draft, all of this stuff. And then I was literally editing and the notification hits my phone. And it was like, there are double takes, Kevin. And then there are the 9 double takes I did because I kept on doing Lamar Jackson re-signs with the Ravens. And it was like, Lamar Jackson re-signs with the Ravens. And then you were like, is this fake? Like, was this a misprint? Like, did he sign with the Ravens or is it looking to sign with the Ravens? I had to hit the source 6 times. I had to refresh Schefter's page 9 because I was like, there's no way a burner account has 2 million followers. I was like, this has to be legit, right? And after 10 minutes, it had been on enough platforms that it sunk in that it had happened. And it did not matter who the Ravens drafted. Obviously, Love Zay, all that. Did not matter who the Ravens drafted that day. I was so just we're house money. Because at that point, it already had Odell. then you got Lamar back and you were like, you know what, just draft anyone. It's hard to ruin the vibes of the day. And then there was the whole, people forget, after Lamar, that contract situation or the contract announcement, everyone was like, oh, and the Ravens are trading for DeAndre Hopkins.
That's what
Like,
I was about to say.
And then I was like, are we even selecting tonight? Or are we sending this pick for D-Hop? And just chaos. Just chaos.
Yeah. Wild stuff.
I'm keep chatting, guys. I'm in the middle. Did you guys see the April Fool's video that came out from the Ravens yesterday?
No.
Yeah, I did.
Oh my
Oh
god!
my gosh. I didn't see it.
Eric DeCosta does it again. First of all, this had to have been his idea because if anybody knows Eric DeCosta, the guy is just a masterful prankster. He convinced everybody during the Super Bowl that he actually does
And he looks at Madden ratings.
and
people took it and were like it was
thought
gospel. I wish like the media would understand that this man does not go a day without trying to
pull one over on somebody.
And he's literally just sitting there on a podcast and he was like, yeah, we actually look really deep into Madden ratings when we're drafting guys or we're signing guys. So that does deal with a lot. And people are like, this is crazy. How are the Ravens like good? Well, this is what they're doing. Like, can we? Well, no, it's because Eric DeCosta wasn't doing it.
And to add context to that, we interviewed Eric DeCosta last May, and we asked him about his draft, antics or whatever, and then he proceeded to try to keep as straight as of a face as possible. But we weren't falling for his bullshit. But he talked about how like he listens to Phantom of the Opera and he's like directing this whole thing.
He's like all he does is listen to Phantom of the Opera while he's preparing his draft board, and then at the end of it, he stands up on the the big climb.
We were not buying it. We were not buying it. I mean, he has done some diabolical things to his own staff. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that. We have talked to Chad Steele about this.
They're just
diabolical.
It includes crawling through windows to steal suits out of people's offices,
stealing people's pants.
And not even like he did that. Like he did that because he didn't want himself on the security footage, so he could then direct.
The security guy,
so then, so he gets secure. Like this is not just him doing a little prank. Eric DeCosta, when he's going to prank somebody, he will make sure that security footage is scrubbed of it. He's making sure that everyone is on the same page so that you feel as crazy as possible. And then, we've heard stories that then the next day suits showing back up in people's offices and they're like, Eric.
Yeah.
Like they know.
Yep. So take a listen to this. This was their April Fool's video, which I thought was absolute genius.
Costa, and this is Untold Stories. Years ago, we were looking at different ways to sharpen the algorithm that we use for prediction, both draft-wise and also free agency. Guy that I really respect, who's working for the Orioles, a guy named Sig Maydal, was telling me that back in his days working at NASA, that he had uncovered some patterns regarding astrology, the planets, and time of year as far as predicting players.
Eric came to me and said he had a great idea that was going to take us to the next level in evaluating free agents and draft prospects. I was intrigued. I was interested.
When I talked to John about these kind of things, first of all, John appreciates the, I think, outside-the-box approach.
We're pretty cutting edge around here. We like to think outside the box. I guess I didn't realize we'd be thinking outside the galaxy, beyond the Milky Way. But he took me through it, and I was interested.
I think he was intrigued.
Then he said, we're going to find stars in the stars. I didn't know what to think at that point. Eric was pushing it hard. He started sending me articles, books, the horoscope every day. Wanted me to look at it.
I kept bringing him more and more articles and studies and different books and different things. We watched some videos on YouTube about some of these very things, and it really did become clear cut to John that we were on the right track.
This is prototypical Eric DeCosta, and it was actually pretty awesome that John Harbaugh got on this too.
The straight face.
This is that's what I'm saying. Like this is Eric DeCosta to a T. Like that's what I'm saying. This had to have been his idea. And shout out to Ravens production crew, by the way. Incredible job. But this was 100% Eric DeCosta's idea. I'm convinced of it.
He's good. Even watching that, I was sitting there and I was like,
I can almost believe that guy.
Yeah, because he'll look at you so just dead in the eyes and be like, Yeah, we're looking at these, Madden ratings, and we think that they're good. Like, we really enjoy, look at, and you sit there even with the fan of the opera stuff. We're leaving. We're like 99% sure that he made that up, but in the back of your head, you're like, I don't have any confirmation. Like I could see him doing because he says it so confidently, just so easy. He's like, oh yeah, it's my yearly tradition to watch, listen to Phantom of the Opera. And you're like, okay, is he telling the truth? Like, and that's why the one thing about the Madden ratings went so viral, because he's looking just so dead serious at the camera, and he's like, no, yeah, this is our our big cutting edge thing. And then obviously now you get the astrology and stuff. He has got to make media life hell if you are trying to get an actual story out of it.
That makes you wonder how you even believe him if he's telling the truth.
Yeah, it's what he literally told us, that other GMs refer to him as like a mob boss. And I was like, yeah, I could tell. I'm sure it's horrible trying to work with you, because I have no clue if you're telling me anything that's the truth, what you're actually thinking. You could be sitting there going, we just don't want to give up on this guy. We got to keep him. He's not on the block. Meanwhile, he's trying to get you to just give up. Like, it's just, he's good. He's good. There's a reason that he's one of the best general managers in all football.
First of all, I just wanted to I've seen a couple people say this, and I'm not picking on Laura. I just appreciate you welcoming me back. I never left.
Yeah, it was like one show. I guess just yesterday.
So I have another job.
Yeah.
I can't do 3 days a week, so I can only do Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know what's with all the welcome backs. I mean, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys.
Welcome back after.
Am I really that invisible behind where you're at?
I know. Seriously, you must just like blend into the wall or something.
So there's a running joke. So I had to tell Zach and Rip this. Was it last week? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was last Thursday. I ran into a guy at a networking event, and he was like, "Oh yeah, hey, like happy opening day, blah blah blah." He's like, I just saw this story on Ryan Ripken show, by the way, about the Ben McDonald story.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like I actually produced that. I recorded it, whatever, produced that episode. And he was like, oh, you did? And I was like, yeah, like I'm on the show. I'm the damn co-founder of the Ryan Ripken show. My face is plastered on the banner on his X account. Like, I'm here.
Yeah, people just don't believe it.
I guess I'm just invisible on the show. I don't know why. But Laura, I appreciate you acknowledging that I exist. And Brooks knows I exist too. Brooks loves the hair. I just don't understand.
Yeah, it's Kevin's doing too much side stuff that everyone's just like, what's Kevin doing, that they forget the other members. Kevin's just over on Kevin and Zach React downing 9 uncooked potatoes.
Yeah,
people
do
are
I need to do more crazy shit? Is that what the problem is?
Yeah, we need you to just do whatever Kevin was doing last year. The cartwheels down the hallway is just everything.
Nomadic Brian. Oh yeah, thanks, bro.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Oh God, that's hilarious. I love it.
Gosh,
it's just a running joke. I just don't exist on the show.
It's crazy.
Like what's that? I'm the Phantom. I'm the Phantom of the Opera, actually.
Yeah,
no, but Brad, you're the one that makes it all work, so you can take solace in that.
Goddamn right.
Own the chaos, Brad.
That's right.
Own the chaos.
Only Joe. Only people only real fans like Joe know own the chaos actually means. Brad is turning into a regular guest like Rocco. Yeah, fuck you.
Gosh, I forgot about the regular.
Brad is not turning into
the Rocco is just a guest.
Is Rocco even a guest anymore?
Rocco's just, it's not a regularly occurring guest anymore.
Here's what I'll say. In Rocco's defense, Rocco has a regular 9-to-5 job.
Yes.
And he's doing a lot of work for us.
He is busting his ass. Almost every,
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you some credit too, Zach, but almost every reel that's gone out on Instagram and almost every short that's out on YouTube has been done by Rocco. He is busting his ass. So as much shit as we give him, and it's well-deserved, he does deserve that credit.
Yeah, he does. So we tell him good job every once in a while.
Yeah, but the thing is that we have to tell him that and then back it up with like some sort of dig, because the second that you give him any sort of glimmer of hope that he's doing a good job, his head it can't fit through the door. He can't fit his head through the door. That's the problem with Rocco.
Yeah.
Love Rocco, but fuck you, Rocco.
Yeah, just always.
Rocco is a good kid. He is.
Every once in a while.
He does that PR part. He doesn't do PR for us.
Yeah.
Probably should get him to do that.
You know, every once in a while.
Co-host doesn't know ball. Yeah.
What a time.
That was
like early.
that was like 3 weeks into the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was as early as you can get in that thing. That was, gosh, I'll never forget when that clip was going around Twitter.
Like this show, like today's show, if we're doing a good job. I haven't been behind this part of the camera for a while. I haven't hosted a show in a minute.
Yeah, Rip's been
And we got to do it again tomorrow. I got to find something to talk about tomorrow. I'm starting to run out of shit. What else we have to talk about today?
honestly today. Here's the issue with the Wednesday show. I feel like, and that's why it's so nice when Kyle's in here with the food.
Breaks it up.
Yeah, it breaks it up because I feel like after an Orioles off day, like it's so early in the season, we were lucky that Jackson Merrill and Christian Campbell signed these deals because that gave us that stuff. The draft is still a little too far away. I mean, I keep saying it's sneaking up on me, but it feels like we've just been, buzz to Maryland. That's going to be
Buzz to Maryland. Yeah.
That's going to be fun. He actually just has introductory press concerts.
We did try to get some Maryland folks on the show. Just didn't end up working out because obviously they're all busy.
Yeah. Things in Maryland athletics escalated pretty quickly and they had to figure some things out. So
we even tried to reach out to SVP. That was actually a thing. And he just wasn't. Yeah, he responded. Wasn't able to do it.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to have SVP on the show very soon.
I hope
which
so.
I'm super pumped about.
That would be awesome.
Such a solid guy.
What a legend.
Yeah.
Like overall.
Yeah.
But yeah, Scott Van Pelt, obviously Maryland alum, just super fan as well. Dude, some of the comments he made about Willard was just absolutely insane. Did you see
Scorched earth?
We should bring that up.
Yeah, he no one was happy about Willard, but I don't think there were many more upset than Scott Van Pelt. I think that's
for a media personality like that to go off on somebody that's like you just don't see it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that also speaks to the level of I don't want to say SVP is like, I'll say SVP is kind of on that level of sports media, mountain where what he says carries more weight than others.
Yeah.
He
100%.
So it's not just a media person doing that, that we've had local people go off on certain things and you see that every once in a while. Scott Van Pelt's not just a local guy. He is kind of the face at times of, obviously ESPN, they have the Stephen A's, they've had all those guys, the Dan Orlovsky's and stuff. But if you're talking just we're going pound for pound favorite media analysts, especially at ESPN, I find if you put a poll up that Scott Van Pelt would not win that. He just genuinely is one of those guys where when he speaks, especially about Maryland, because everyone knows Scott Van Pelt's that, diehard Maryland guy. So I think people were waiting for him to make a comment. I think people knew he would be a little upset. I don't think we all saw that, like you said, Kevin, just straight scorched earth. So good for him, though. If you're going to, it's one of those things. The whole situation just kind of sucked.
I remember the days where you couldn't be in media and be a fan of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was too afraid of bias. Yeah. And I just love that we're at this point in sports where we can still be fans of our team, but still talk about other teams.
Yeah. And
who cares if we're biased?
Yeah. And that's the whole point of it is, we obviously are out of Baltimore. So we're going to be talking and rooting for Baltimore teams, but that doesn't mean that it's like, if you're a fan of a team, like you can't be talking about any sports, so I'm glad, kind of what we're talking about with that. Did we want to play the SVP or did we?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you have it?
I do not.
Okay. Let me, I'll pull it up. I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay. Awesome. So
also there was rumors around Derek Queen entering the portal. He actually came out on Twitter or on X
he was
and said that did not happen.
Yeah,
that was April Fool's, wasn't it?
I think he
unless he fell for it himself. He fell for his own joke.
Well, there was one that was like
he went
he was going to Loyola and he's like, can't wait. And so that was like a joke.
something else though.
Yeah, because they said that only one player remained on the roster because they're everyone's assuming that Derek Queen's going to the NBA. And Queen made the joke of he's like, I didn't enter the portal. Like, I'm still at Maryland, guys. He's like, which talk about something, we're talking about lifers and becoming a legend at the place you're at. When we're talking about the Orioles and just all these players signing these extensions, you want to become a legend at Maryland. You want to become a college basketball star. You never have to pay for a thing the university ever again. If Derek Queen decides to forego the draft and stay another year in Maryland and they just win anything, go back to the Sweet 16 simply, win a Big Ten regular season or postseason title.
I honestly hope he does. I don't think Derek Queen's NBA ready yet.
It's one of those interesting things where it's like the unfortunate thing about the NBA draft is like, and Kevin, you can attest to this. It's like the first 2 to 3 guys are like, they're going to be stars. And then after that, everyone's just like, we're taking this lottery ticket. We hope this guy pans out, so especially with NIL, that's the biggest thing.
That's what I'm saying.
With
NIL, there's a better shot now.
Yeah, because you have guys that there is no, hey, you got to go get your payday before you miss out. Now it's, hey, if you want to, for Derek Queen, he could make over $10 million, next year in all sponsorships combined.
Yeah.
That it could get really.
Yeah. It's another comparison though, especially with NIL. Even, you talk about like in the WNBA atmosphere where there was the projected number 2 overall pick decided to return to school instead of go into the WNBA draft. And I know there are a bunch of different conversations about that, but it's just like there is so much earning potential in college for these athletes in both men's and women's sports where, in Derek Queen's case, like if he was to go to the NBA draft, he'd be a top 10 pick probably because I think people see the potential, For a lot of these guys, though, they're maybe late first rounders, early second rounders to say, oh, hey, I'm the guy at my school or like I'm the face of this program. They can go back for another year, make hundreds of thousands or million or whatever dollars, and then still come out the next year and probably be in the same spot, just with more money in their pocket. So I don't blame college athletes if they do return to school. We're seeing more of it. Obviously, the transfer portal, everybody's entering it to see what sponsorships are available and what schools are the right fit for them. But I mean, if I had to predict, I think he just goes to the draft. Like as much as I want him to come back to Maryland, I mean,
if I'm a betting man, I don't see him returning. I also wanted to eat first. Thank you. 11 months. Buzz took Virginia Tech to the Elite Eight once. He doesn't stay in a place for more than 5 years, but he's a good coach. This is the biggest thing, and then we'll get to the SVP thing. This is the biggest knock on Buzz is, he bounces around. He's a good coach. He bounces around. Unfortunately, unless you are a Duke, a UNC, a top of the top, a Kansas, a Kentucky, one of the blue bloods, your coach is, if he's really good, is probably going to leave for a bigger opportunity.
Right.
And that's just simply how it is, so I'm not going to go and say like, okay, because he leaves every 5 years for a different school, okay, he's not going to be the right fit. No matter who they got, even if you get a young up and coming guy or you do get a Buzz, it's very rare to see a guy, unless, like I said, it's like at a Duke or, one of these power, top teams that's always going to be, one of the blue bloods. It's hard to just simply stay for that long because there's always going to be more, hell, Willard left for Villanova because they're giving him more NIL money. He's like, I could get better players there. That's one of the reasons. So there's always going to be reasons in the way that the NCAA is built right now with, NIL, with pretty much making it free agency. Coaches, if they have an opportunity to go win at another place because they get $10, $15 million more in NIL money, that can get you 2 to 3 better players than another place and put you in better position for success. So I'm not too worried about hey, Buzz has left every place he goes after a few years. At this point, probably any coach that you were going to get was going to do that.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. So as we were talking about SVP kind of going off on Willard, he had an incredible clip here that I wanted to share, and we can react to this on the other side. So just take a listen to what Scott Van Pelt had to say in reaction to Willard leaving the Terps.
transactional and who's got the most NIL. There's 1,700 people in the portal. Just wait in the coming days and weeks to see the players that are going to come out there. The word I hear from agents, again, about two, that's the number. Of
million.
2 million if you can play. 2.5, maybe 3. I won't name names, but some this weekend. There's a big player that switched from, I'm not saying anything, over 3. Over 3. And I'm telling you, like, there's the rumors that Smith's got a 4 next to his name, and that ain't at Purdue. And that's where this whole situation is so hopelessly fucked. And I get Billis. He can get mad and say the coaches' portal is always open. Of course, but how many coaches have left? A handful. And every player, like, this is what we want the sport to be. You root for a team for a year. Like, Purdue didn't have one transfer. Like, there was a great breakdown somebody put out of where they started. And Purdue just had giant boiler up next to all their name. And most schools, it's just like 5 different pictures that weren't the school where they started. That's what and of course, get the players some money. Unionized CBA contracts has to happen. But this is the last year of the Wild West where moving forward, it's revenue share. And theoretically, you won't be able to do it out in the open anyway.
No, there might be some upper sales and brown bags coming back. You know?
Hey, everybody's figured out who their marks are now.
Correct.
So that was SVP reacting to Kevin Willard going to Villanova. I think that there's some truth to this. I don't disagree with him one bit as far as the NIL deals and having a CBA. He's right. This is the Wild West.
This is horrible,
and not just in basketball, football too. It's absolutely it takes away from the actual game. I mean, because more people are talking about NIL deals and transfer portals than they are talking about the players at this point. In my opinion. So I think he's right about this. I think that Kevin Willard probably would have done what any other coaches. My big thing is, like, why would you?
It's how it happened.
It was how it happened. I don't blame him for going to Nova. The way that it was handled was absolutely insane.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is I don't think anybody is sitting there, especially, there's going to be the emotional Maryland fan who's upset no matter what. Nobody is blaming Kevin Willard for going and getting potentially a better opportunity in Villanova, more money in the NIL share, all that. It's how it happened. If he would have been upfront the whole time and been like, hey, listen, I'm focused on this run. Yeah, there's potential that I'm going to be elsewhere next year, that I'm going to be afterwards talking to other people. I got to do what's best for me, but I can guarantee one thing to everyone, we're focused on this run right now. If he would have come out and said that, people would have been like, okay, you know what? At least he's honest. We knew this was a possibility, but he's saying he's focused on this and we're doing this. It was nope, I'm staying here. Then it was, the deflection. Then it was a little bit more deflection. That was, I don't want to talk about this. Oh no, I've told everyone. He told players he was staying.
Right.
He was like, no, I'm being transparent. I'm staying. No, I'm focused on this. He makes this big stick of it, and then he's asked about it, and he completely deflects the question. And it felt like just the entire time it was this cat and mouse game where everyone knew he was going, and he didn't want to man up and be like, hey, yeah, I'm talking to Villanova. He was like, he did the classic, and someone said
or
it.
Just lie. Just say, no, I'm not talking to anybody. And then be like, listen,
and then after, stop playing the cat and mouse game. Stop going back and forth, keeping it in limbo.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Anthony Richardson situation where just lie about it. Don't say you just wanted to come out of the game because you were tired. Make up an excuse. Don't actually, like, there are times to actually just not tell the whole world what was going on and just save yourself.
Your team, like, your team doesn't want to know you're leaving for Villanova next year.
Yeah.
Like,
the team dinner thing, like, again, all of that, it stacks up and it just makes it super awkward. Like,
yeah. And Brooks, with this is actually, I think, making it even worse this year, because there have been agents and stuff and guys in media who talk about players are trying to, because they can get a bigger payday if they sign now before April 8th. So these guys are now, that's why people are leaving so early. Yeah. That's why middle of the tournament, their team's out. Hey, I'm entering the transfer portal.
Right.
Hey, I'm going here. Hey, I want to go there. Kobe Gillespie, he hasn't announced anywhere, but I'll tell you, I was hearing in the round of 32 that he was going to Tennessee, and he's still playing in the Crab Five.
Right.
So it's almost made it worse because now these kids were like, yeah, it is a blitz right now. It's no, hey, we're going to see what's right for us. It's literally who can give me the most money before April 8th? How can I get the biggest paycheck before that happens? So yeah, after April 8th, we're going to see this hopefully calm down. But man, did they turn this into the Wild West. It was already the Wild West, and it just got even wilder when they were like, hey, by the way, everyone's big paycheck is no longer really going to be possible after April 8th if you guys want to get a big deal. Because now all these guys are like, well, shit, if I want to make, I can make $1.5 million, $1 million after April 8th. But if I sign now, I can make that, 1.8 to 2.
Yeah.
They're just absolutely, they're going for it, and that's why it sucks right now. And we're going to see so many guys sign beforehand. And that's another thing. Last year, the moment I realized that college football just college sports, I should say, have changed forever was I forget his name, Kansas's quarterback. They announced that he was returning for his, I believe, senior year, fifth year, something. The way it was announced was Kansas announced that they have agreed to a deal with the quarterback to pay him however much it was to stay at Kansas. It wasn't, hey, it wasn't the big post that everyone used to do of like, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Unfinished business. It was, hey, we agreed to a deal so I can stay here. Hey, guys, I was going to go elsewhere, but they paid me the money. So Jayhawks, baby. Rock chalk. It's really tough.
Yeah,
it's
that's
an
like
interesting
Deshaun
situation.
Watson. Remember that? He was going to Atlanta. And then the Browns swooped in with that offer, and he said, he's like, oh, I want to go to Atlanta. Atlanta's the place. And then the Browns came in, and they said, Cleveland, let's go.
It was the Browns. They were eliminated.
Yeah, he ruled him out. Yeah.
But it is just one of those things where right now it's who's going to give me the best.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're a guy, like a quarterback or something, and you're real with yourself, and you're like, I'm not one of the best 32 quarterbacks in this country that's going to go out there and make money playing quarterback for an NFL team.
Yep.
If I know I have 2 years to make money and I'm a good college quarterback, unfortunately, I got to do what's best for me. I would love to be a star at this, school or whatever, but if they're offering me, $750,000 to play quarterback, but this SEC team is offering me $1.35 million.
Yeah.
You're
just going to be you're just going to go the Bo Nix route and just play out as long as you can until you get drafted. And actually, look, it's working out for Bo right now. Speaking of college players, and I just want to tie it back into the draft here real quick, because we missed something here that I wanted to chat about. And this part of the show is brought to you by our friends over out there in Charlestown Races in West Virginia.
Wait a minute, Kevin.
Yeah, the duets. Actually, I'm actually digging the duet.
Kevin, good job.
I feel like Rip's maybe a little flat when we do that.
We gotta get a pitch going.
People are wondering. We might have to do a
do it again. Thanks. Shout out to our friends over at Hollywood Casino out there in Charlestown Races in West Virginia. See, I kind of like it better.
Yeah, maybe Rip's holding us back.
I do like your harmonies when you do them, Brad.
West Virginia.
Oh, let's go.
Take an octave up.
Yeah, let's go.
This is what they don't teach you.
Yeah.
Only at the Ryan Ripken show.
So anyway, shout out to our friends over there, Hollywood Casino out in West Virginia. Look, the draft, I think it's safe to say that Cam Ward is odds-on favorite at -700 to go to the Titans. God bless him. Does Travis Hunter go next?
I hate this draft class.
I know.
Because I have no clue.
It's a weak draft class outside of D-line.
Okay, like this is what Kevin and I will say this. I think it's funny that we're like, it's a weak draft class. The only reason we say stuff is a weak draft class is the quarterback class.
Yeah.
So
because Travis Hunter is an absolute fucking beast.
Kevin, like, okay, I agree with you, but I think if you're looking for the trenches on both sides this year, it's a good draft.
I mean, the defensive line is the strongest it's been probably in the past decade. But other than that, there aren't a bunch of strong. Like safety is good. Corner's pretty weak this year compared to past years. Quarterback, yes, it's very bad. Running back is actually good this year. Running back's another position that's good.
Cornerback is riskier this year, I think, than other year because you have the guys like Ben Morrison, you have Will Johnson. So you have guys that are all the talent in the world. It's one, can they, are they going to take that step? Or for Ben Morrison, it's can you stay healthy? Because if he stayed healthy his entire time at Notre Dame, he's a top 10 pick that the Ravens, I've seen people taking him in the second round. So I think, I don't know. I saw this tweet, Kevin, about there are no bad draft classes. It's just the good players didn't go where they were supposed to. Like, I feel like overall, you're going to, out of every draft class, you're going to have those 2 to 3 stars. You're going to have those, the average players, the good players. It's just where they're drafted. I think, if the first 10 picks, if only 2 of them are good players, then everyone's like, that draft class sucks. And they ignore the, 2, 3 all pros drafted in the 4th.
Also, if he is available, are the Ravens drafting Baron Sorrell?
I have no clue where the Ravens go this year.
They're like 6 positions.
They
might trade out.
This is genuinely that year, just one of those years where last year was sort of like it. I didn't know where they were going to go. I thought maybe corner. This year, I genuinely, after Ronnie Stanley signed, because if before Ronnie signed, it was very much like, okay, they're going to take a tackle. If the tackle's there, you go.
I think they go linebacker. I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, I think that I think it's Baron. I think Baron Sorrell for the Longhorns, if he's available, a lot of people are saying that that's where he goes. He goes to Baltimore, another linebacker for Baltimore.
I think you could also look because a lot of guys, like I don't think Jalon Walker makes to them, but you have the inside-outside versatility players where it's like even like a Jihad Campbell from Alabama who like you can play both on the edge and as a off-ball guy. The Ravens love moving chess pieces around the defense. Like that's what they live for on that side of the ball. So, I mean, I could see that. He's not going to fall.
You only have KVN probably for another year or 2, maybe.
Yeah, I'd probably say one more year.
You get another linebacker, you can develop him as KVN is still playing, so that when he leaves, you got to replace him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they went with a guy like Shamar Stewart, who is kind of similar to Odafe Owe in a way, where all the talent in the world, all the athletic traits in the world, not a lot of college production. Yeah. So it could be one of those where they just swing for traits again. And I know depending on how people feel about Owe, that might be like a great thing or a horrible thing, depending on how you like Owe or don't. But we know the Ravens value athleticism. It's not their be all end all, but I feel like they could swing for upside. The only thing for me is like this year feels like the last year for the Ravens, like of this iteration. I don't mean like Lamar Jackson or anything like that, but like even though Harbaugh has the extension, there are questions about, what's the threshold for him. Their tight end room is going to look different next season, even if Andrew stays for this upcoming one. So I think that you should get aggressive. I mean, if there's a guy that falls in like the 20s, like early 20s, and he's a really good player, you have 11 draft picks. Go send a couple. Go trade up for a guy. I think that's where they should go.
Yeah, and kind of we talked about this a few seconds ago. I think this is a big one that they could trade back from solely because I think sneakily the end of the first round I could see 2 quarterbacks that people don't think are first rounders. Jackson Dart I've seen him in mock drafts suddenly because teams want that 5th year of control. So does a team desperate to go grab a quarterback, get that 5th year of control? Maybe they're sitting at like the 36, 37. Yeah. Are you offered enough if you're the Ravens? We feel like this is a deep class, and I know people are going to be like, stop acquiring more picks. Like, you already have 11. There's no need. But hell, if I can trade back 10 spots from the 1st to the 2nd and then use, get maybe an extra 3rd in there, right, and then use more of my 5th and 6th round, because they have what, Kevin, like 9, it feels like 5th round picks. These guys, you can move up and I'd rather see, instead of 11 guys all throughout, I'd rather see 8 guys, but 6 of them taken in the first 4 rounds.
It will not surprise me if we also see a trade made in the first round, and it's Mark Andrews. It would not
Yeah.
surprise if the Ravens want to trade up for a guy or they want to trade for a second first rounder. I think that we could see a Kyle Hamilton type of situation because we've talked about this already. Mark Andrews is taking up a lot of cap space. He's $11 million hit to the cap this year?
$7 now because the bonus was guaranteed.
That's right. So $7 million, and obviously you have Isaiah Likely that could easily slide into that spot that Mark Andrews has lived for all this time. I just think I'm not saying that it'll happen. I just will not be shocked if we saw something similar to what we saw with like a Kyle Hamilton type trade.
Yeah, I agree. I think if this ends up being, I think draft day is the last day that we're going to have any rumors around Mark Andrews trade because it makes no sense if you're going to trade him to get picks for next year because that's not going to help you this year.
If you're not getting offered enough, like obviously it clearly felt like Baltimore or maybe was or is looking for a day 2 pick for Andrews at the very least, as opposed to a day 3, which I don't blame him for that. But if he leaves in the offseason next year, you're going to probably get at least a 4th round comp pick for him. So if you're getting offered a 4th round pick, you might as well just keep him on the roster for the year and then go get that pick next year. I think he's still a top 5 tight end. Obviously there's recency bias, what happened in Buffalo, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, he hasn't performed in the playoffs up to expectations, but he had 11 touchdowns. It was a career year for Andrews in the regular season, despite the fact that he started slow.
Yeah.
It was like 9 straight games with the touchdown to end the year off, or at least at one point it was like 8-9 straight. People, I understand the playoff stuff. I do, but at the same time, like it's so hard for me to sit there and go, well, we got to get rid of Mark because he isn't performing in the playoffs. Can we point to like anyone on the Ravens who's been performing in the playoffs over the past 5 years?
And I'm not going to even say that either, but I will say this. It pains me to say this. I think Isaiah Likely is more athletic than Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
And so I think that if
he's a long-term guy,
if Mark Andrews was to no longer be on the Ravens moving forward, I don't think that the Ravens skip a beat as far as being a contender for the Super Bowl.
I think most people agree that the Ravens would be fools not to choose Likely over Andrews for the future. I mean, it's a longer term investment. I think you can get him on a deal that's less than Andrews has now, but he's going to get paid. You can't pay. It's to a lesser extent the Queen Roquan conversation, where it was like you can't pay both guys. You have to let one walk. Obviously, they chose Roquan over Queen, which was the right decision. If you invest in Andrews on another 4-year deal, he maybe plays 2 or 3 of those years, and Likely's out there on a 5-year deal. Imagine Likely in like Cincinnati, who desperately need a tight end. Like, because I'm trying to put the image in your head so you can say.
They won't have him in Cincinnati because Cincinnati doesn't have a run game. And actually, I was looking at Joey made a comment here on X. Thanks for watching over there on X as well. We got our X viewers. They want to run. They need 2 tight ends. Enter Charlie Cole.
Yeah, damn good blocking tight end.
So I that's what I'm saying. I think they can afford to lose a tight end. And unfortunately, if you were going to lose one, it's got to be Mark Andrews.
Yeah. And Kevin, we obviously talking about this, but if the Ravens are able to trade, Andrews, they get in that. Do we see? I mean, because the Ravens, if we're going off history, they got to draft 2 tight ends in order for the second one to be a star. So, do you? Because this is also an incredible tight end class. So, would you be shocked if suddenly Andrews gets traded and the Ravens? Because people forget Kolar and Likely are also on the 5 years of their contract, correct?
Yeah, all of them are. Yeah.
So it's not just okay. Well, if Andrews leaves, I'm interested to see if they trade Andrews, where they go at the tight end position, because it is something. Obviously, I make the joke about they have to draft 2 tight ends because the second one always is a star. But when you look at it and everything, it is a very underrated need for the Ravens right now, because you look at it, in the future and you go, okay, we're all sitting here like, no, you choose Likely over Andrews for that. Okay, you got Kolar for this. Under contract at this second, none of them are on the team in 2026. Now, I would like to think that Likely is going to be extended. I'd also like to think that Kolar probably gets some sort of mini extension, not going to break the bank or anything on him.
Right.
But they do need to also start looking at, because, kind of what you said, Joey, they need tight ends. They want to run the football. they are always thinking 2 steps ahead. So I would not be shocked at all if we saw them take 1 or 2 tight ends this year, especially with 11 picks. Throw see what sticks.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you're asking if I think Andrews is going to get traded, I'm going to say no. I feel like it does. I feel like if they would have done it, it would have happened before the bonus got picked up or kicked in or whatnot. And Harbaugh made comments about it too. They've kind of, I don't want to say switched up their messaging because they never really telegraphed that he was going to be completely gone in the first place.
They went from a Ravens EDC Harbaugh, he's gone, but we're going to hype him up right now answer to they were very much like, no, he's going to be here.
Right. So, I mean, and we heard that same thing with Ronnie. They were very much, we don't really know about Ronnie. And then they were very much, we're going to bring him back. So, I mean, I think that Andrews plays out the year in Baltimore. I think he leaves in the offseason next year. But I do think they draft a tight end in the mid to late rounds. I think they keep 4 tight ends on the roster this year. Usually I'm keep 3 tight ends on the roster, and I'm pretty set on that. I don't like to keep in my roster projections because I just think there's value elsewhere. But
and
for
Ravens, I consider him as kind of a,
Yeah. But I mean, both those guys, Likely and Andrews, you can even for Andrews, who's less athletic, Brad, like you said, you can put him in the slot, you can put him out wide. He can still.
He's a big body.
Yeah, he can route guys up. But I would say like a Luke Lachey from Iowa is someone that I would see as like a 5th to 7th round guy you could probably have him on your roster as a 4 tight end, or even try to sneak him on the practice squad. Maybe you do that, and maybe there's an undrafted tight end the Ravens like, and they keep him on the practice squad, and that can be your thing. But I don't know about you guys, but I do these mock draft simulators every week. And 11 picks, by the time I get to the 6th round, I'm like, what else do I need? Like, I don't know what I've already taken 2 offensive linemen, 2 defensive linemen, 2 corners. I'm like, what's going on here? I mean, now I'm starting to take kickers because I'm like, the Ravens have made it very clear they're going to be looking at kickers. So I'm like, all right, I might as well just throw a guy in there in the 7th round. But almost like there's no backup quarterback anymore.
I was going to say, I was taking backups. I
was doing running backs until, they have 4 running backs. So unless Rasheen Ali, sorry, Zach, is going to be off the roster. I mean,
as much as I love Ali and everything, I think it would be stupid with 11 picks not to take a swing at a running back in a very deep class as well. And that's the thing is with 11 picks, if the Ravens select 11 times, there are not 11 holes on this roster.
No.
Like they're not even 11 positions. Like 11 guys can't just I don't see if they draft 11, maybe 8 make the roster.
Well, I don't think you draft 11 and expect them all to make the team.
No, this is just 11 to throw darts.
Yeah, and seeing what sticks. I mean, honestly, that's really what the draft is all about, except for your top guys, in my opinion. So we can move on from that. Look, we're getting into the, 4th quarter of the show. We appreciate you guys continuing to watch. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe. We just hit 15,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thanks so much for you guys and your support. We could not have done it without you. Look, Orioles play tonight, opening night at Camden Yards. They're playing the Red Sox, and we actually had a former Oriole in the studio earlier this week. And I promised you guys we would give you a preview of our interview with, I should say Ryan's interview, but I say us because it's always a team effort.
Yeah, it's us.
He couldn't live without us. Be honest with you,
he couldn't.
Literally would forget everything. So anyhow. Jim Palmer, legendary Jim Palmer, has been with the Orioles organization for 62 years, Zach.
Unbelievable.
62. And we had him in studio. We interviewed him. It's going to be incredible. Make sure you're sticking around for our Sunday episodes, our off script with Rip Sundays. We're doing these legends each and every Sunday. We're going to be featuring a new legend of the game. If you guys missed Jim Tomey's interview last Sunday, I'm telling you, you're going to want to go back and watch it.
Unbelievable.
That guy is an absolute legend. And I could have talked to him for 3 hours. I mean, and Jim's the same way. So we're going to be having Jim on. The entire interview will be up this Sunday. And we thought we'd give you a little preview here.
Always talked about it. That guy throws the unexpected. Well, if you're not going to be overpowering, throw the unexpected. Pitch to both sides of the plate. They don't teach that anymore. I talked to Drew French, who did a great job as our first-year pitching coach last year in 2024. I said, and they asked me, your dad got guys to come down to spring training this year. I said, so if I come down, can I teach them to throw the ball low and away? He said, Jim, the average major league pitcher misses their target by 9 inches. And then I watched the video the other day. It's about 12 and a half inches. So the plate's 17 inches wide. And in the old days, you lived on the corners.
Yep.
You threw strike one away. That was the Oriole. If you pitched for the White Sox and Johnny Sane, it was kind of like today, spin the ball. But George Bamberger was, can you stay out of the middle of the plate? And now it's, okay, how hard do I throw? Can I pitch the boat? Do I throw strikes?
Yeah.
We were talking about Batista. He doesn't need, he was always overpowering. So probably going to have a little problem because he's not a guy that's going to make quality pitches. So if he doesn't get back to 99 or whatever, or if the split stays up or whatever, he probably won't be as overpowering. Hopefully, when he gets, better feel, which is, something, you don't pitch for 2.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Zach. He was talking about Sagano there.
So he was actually we were talking about how baseball's changed and just kind of, yes, it was actually part of, talking about Sagano, Eflin and them. And, which brings us into tonight. It is a completely, that was my favorite part about, just the whole Jim Palmer interview and everything is his perspective on it. Him sitting there, and he's like, hey, can I teach guys how to throw it, low and away? And through French being like, hey, Jim, I hate to break it to you, but you can ask them to throw it low and away. The average guy's missing by 9 inches.
I didn't realize
that's over. And like he said, plate 17. So you're missing by half a plate potentially every single time. It
makes you wonder how they strike guys out anymore. And to me, I think too, like that's why you have these scouts that are looking for guys who just know how to throw hard and their spin rate's out of control, because they're just hoping the ball gets thrown fast enough and hard enough and it has enough movement that they just swing and miss.
Yeah, if you miss your spot by a foot and now suddenly it's over the middle of the plate, I'd rather it be 103 than 93.
Right.
So that's kind of where it's why, when we've had the breakdowns that Rip has done on Eflin, on Povich, on Sagano, these guys aren't going to blow you away with 100.
No, they're
going to
pitch.
But they know how to get you out.
Yeah.
They know how to miss barrels. Yes, gosh, we've talked to so many guys, and Ben McDonald even said it. He was like, I think pitchers seem to forget that a ground out and 2 pop-ups is still the same 3 outs as 3 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Like, it does not matter if they hit the ball 300 feet in the air and it gets caught, or you have a 12 pitch at bat trying to strike them out. It still goes down as a singular out.
Yeah.
Now, are there situations where, bases loaded, less than 1 out, you're like, okay, we got to try to get a strikeout? Yeah. There's situations where it would be nice to throw 102 and just, blow it by someone. But more often than not, these guys that know how to pitch are going to be the ones that are successful and going to have long careers, because we see so many guys where they throw 100 and then by the time they're 33, 34, they're only throwing 96, 97, and they're not getting away with stuff. Some of these guys, the ones that can do it for 15 plus years, hell, the Kyle Gibsons and stuff. Now, he's not an ace. He's not someone that you're going to, write home about, but he knows how to get outs.
Yeah.
And that's what's so important. And I know people are not big fans of the Orioles rotation because they don't have that frontline guy. They have a lot of guys that know how to go deep into games and get outs. And that's what the Orioles are hoping for. We've talked about, Kevin and Zach React a million times, it feels like already. You can't expect this rotation to be, okay, these guys are going to go 7 shutout innings every time. You hope they get into the 6th and you have a chance to win. And that's what most of them have been doing for their whole careers, is they're going to keep you in the ballgame. We watch Kyle Gibson with a 4.7 ERA have the most wins on a 101 win Oriole team, not because he was the most dominant pitcher they had, but every single game he kept them in. He gave them opportunities to win. That's what you want from this team.
Dude, that's like Nathan Eovaldi last night.
Oh my gosh. That pissed me off so much because I wanted him. So if you followed us in the offseason, that was the guy.
Well, yeah, well, I wanted him too. If you guys don't know Nathan Eovaldi, first of all, you live under a rock and you probably shouldn't even watch this show. But second of all, he pitched for the Rangers. They re-signed him in the offseason, and he threw what most would call a Greg Maddux.
Yeah,
and that he struck out 8, walked none in his 5th career complete game. The right-hander threw 99 pitches for 70 strikes.
99.
So a complete game with 99 pitches. To your point, the only reason I bring that up is because he didn't do that just striking everybody out.
Yeah.
And you rarely pitch a complete game doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
put the ball in play, get the guy out.
You think about if you go complete game, that's 27 outs. Even if you just do, okay, let's throw 3 strikes, strike everyone out. that's 81 pitches right there. If you have not thrown a single ball, if not a single guy fouls a pitch off, if you just go 1, 2, 3 every at bat, throw 9 immaculate innings, you're at 81 pitches.
Yeah.
If you want to go deep into ball games against these guys, you can't have, some. Yes, it is very fun when you see a pitcher. Cade Povich struck out 7 in 3 innings, and then you looked up and you're like, oh, he's at 78 pitches. Like you're like, okay, this is we're gonna need the bullpen today. Yeah, it's dope they struck out 7. That was fun. I very much enjoyed that, but at the same time, you're like, okay, maybe if a few of those, 7, 8 pitch at bats could have just been a second pitch ground out, I'd rather that happen and Cade be able to go 2 more innings.
Yeah, I agree. But that was absolutely incredible by Evaldi. I forgot that I wanted to talk about that. So glad we were able to bring that up and kind of tie it into that conversation. As I'd mentioned, as we wind down the show, Orioles play tonight against the Red Sox, and I wanted to shout out again our friends over at Hollywood Casino in Hollywood. Oh, God damn it. Shout out our friends over at Hollywood Casino and Charlestown Races in
West Virginia.
That was not great. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Shout out to our friends over at Hollywood Casino out there in West Virginia in
West Virginia.
There we go.
We're back.
All right. So the ESPN Bet also with Hollywood Casino out there in Charlestown Races in West Virginia has an interesting parlay here. They call it the torpedo bat parlay.
Oh yeah.
So Boston Red Sox at Baltimore Orioles. Part of this parlay is Adley Rutschman total bases over 1.5. Are we good for that?
Yeah, I like it.
I like it.
Next one is Colorado Rockies at Phillies tonight. Bryce Harper total RBIs plus 0.5.
All right, so over he gets an RBI.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
And then Anthony Volpe, Diamondbacks at Yankees, more than 1 hit.
Volpe's been playing well. I'll give it to him.
That parlay is plus 892.
Damn,
not bad, right?
Not
So
bad
like those are all very reasonable bets, I think, for plus 892.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was not expecting 892.
$10 wins you $89.21 if that goes through.
Good. Hey.
So guys, there's your parlay. Brought to you by our friends over there at Hollywood Casino. Appreciate you. Anything else?
No, I feel like anything, Kevin.
Somebody asked me where Rip was. Rip is on his 15 millionth wedding excursion. I don't know how he knows how all these people that have.
I don't either.
Destination weddings. It's unbelievable. That has to be in weddings. He's in this one, I think. Yeah, he's just. It's crazy.
It truly is. Every time
his own wedding's also a destination wedding.
Yeah, it feels like every other day. He's like, I got this wedding coming up.
By the way, have you gotten an invitation to his wedding?
No, I have. You.
I have not gotten an invitation to his wedding either, and
he just tells me about it.
We're about 6 months away, I think. Yeah.
Rip.
I think we overthrow the show.
We're less than 6 months away.
Yeah, we got 5 months.
Yeah. All right. This is now the Brad Smith show, everybody. Ryan Ripken is now not involved anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I only talk to this guy every day.
Yeah.
Multiple times a day. Every day.
Yep. No invite, no name, trying. Sorry.
Still not even a save the date.
Wow, it's just a chat. I was just like, hey, you guys okay, thanks.
Jeez.
Rocker's probably going.
Rocco probably is going.
Rocco will just show up, invited or not.
He's gonna show up.
Oh. All right. That's going to do it for today's show. Guys, thanks so much. 15,000 subscribers. That's fucking awesome. Certainly appreciate you guys. You are the best. Shout out to our sponsors of the show. Shout out Ryan Rooster, even though you weren't here today. We'll forgive you, Kyle, and blame Rip on that one. Yeah. Deep Eddie, can't thank you enough. Hollywood Casino, Charlestown Races, and Merritt Athletic Club. Click that link. Is it pinned to the chat?
No, let me go find it real fast.
Well, so Merritt, if you guys, Merritt Athletic Club, our newest sponsor, absolutely incredible support from them. We worked out a deal with them. You can get a free month of membership from Merritt Athletic Club.
Free 30 days. Also,
free 30 days.
Just real fast. We also had, I know Joe donated and then Brooks with another 5 gifted. So
sorry,
appreciate
my bad.
Yep. Appreciate just saw that as I was going through the
appreciate
start. So
you.
appreciate you guys for all the support.
You guys are the best.
as well, Joe. So
Laura says I need a deep Eddie T. That makes 2 of us, Laura. Still haven't got one of those either.
Makes
That's
3. Yep.
Ripken exclusive. So get in line, sister.
Yeah, for real. Actually, I have one.
You know what? And I'm still waiting on the White Star sales hat.
See, I don't have one because
Are
I
they
handed them
here?
all. I handed them all out. I have no clue. I just handed a lot out.
I didn't
on
see
opening
any.
day.
Usually, like he leaves them laying around, but I don't see.
All right. Also, the announcement that I have is Zach is banned from Kevin and Zach React, so I got a White Star sales set.
Oh,
Yeah, Kevin, you go live tonight.
Yeah,
let
I will,
Kevin.
I
I'm
will.
taking the night off now tonight. So
Yeah.
you
Okay.
solo
Okay.
it. You solo.
Okay.
Kevin, give me time. Kevin, giving me time off as a punishment. Okay.
I know Joe's asking about Collins. That's the second time he's called.
And you know what, Zach? That just proves the point that you don't want to be there.
Nice.
So
I'm gonna say honestly, like Collins, I feel
Yeah.
like are better served on.
Yeah,
Kevin
we're
Zachary.
reacting. We'll find times for Collins on this when we have But we recently, especially with Rip Out, we had our schedule today.
We did. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Joe, maybe show up tomorrow. See what
Hey, yeah,
happens.
how about you? How about you let the producers produce? Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Come on, Joe.
Huh? Yeah. Christ's sake. Anyhow,
Yeah, take that, Joe.
that's gonna do it, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow live at 2:30. We'll react to everything that's been going on, whatever ends up happening. The O's game tonight. I'm sure there'll be something to react to as far as that's concerned. More torpedo bat news, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, baby.
And that's gonna do it, guys. Thanks so much for
I'll do it.
tuning in.
We'll catch you guys next time. Bow.